Paul Kegebein with the Garland County Library, and tonight's program is a photography showcase in commemoration of the 100th anniversary, the Centennial, of Hot Springs National Park. So the photographer who is going to be presenting his work this evening is named Eli Vega, and Mr. Vega is based here in Hot Springs, and he teaches classes, workshops, private lessons, and has even written an award-winning book on the subject called Right Brain Photography. According to Mr. Vega, the best photography is found where technical know-how and creative aesthetics meet. And his big current project he's been working on is his renditions of famous painting, and his goal with that is to complete 40 renditions. But his work that he's here to show tonight is based on Hot Springs National Park. So I'm gonna welcome Mr. Vega. Hello.
Hello. Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Good to see you. So I'm going to let you get started, and I'll be monitoring the program, so you just let me know if you need anything.
Okay, well, thank you, and welcome everyone. I have no idea who's watching and who's not, and where you live. This is going to be, I think it's going to take approximately 45 minutes to show you and share with you 100 photographs of Hot Springs National Park. I've been here a year and a half in Hot Springs, and I love it here. Somebody described the mountains here as soft mountains because they are below the tree line, so everything is covered with trees. Beautiful landscape here, lakes and rivers, waterfalls, you name it, they're here. But today I'm here to talk about Hot Springs National Park and share the 100 photographs that I have chosen to share with you. And feel free to interrupt me and ask me any questions that you'd like. But if you do, please tell us your first name and where you're from, what city and state you're from, because we have no idea who's watching the program. However, if you wish not to interrupt me, I'm going to allow questions at the end of the program so you can ask questions. So at this point, let me get started with my slideshow and get right into it and show you the program and show you the slideshows. I'm going to be talking over the slides. And again, feel free to ask me any questions as I go along. I hope you enjoy it. So stay tuned. I've got some surprises for you. I'm ready at this point, Paul.
Okay, just pull up your slideshow and it'll be good to go.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
All right. I have done so much hiking on this, in this park the last year or so. So before I move any further, as you all know, we have all been devastated with the pandemic the last year. And I believe in turning negatives into positives. Excuse me. So that's what I did last year. Yes, just like anybody else, at first I was sort of sidewhacked with this virus, didn't know what to do at first, but I quickly shook it off and decided, you know, I need to turn this negative into a positive. So when I heard that the park was celebrating its 100th anniversary next year, meaning 2021, I immediately thought, you know, that's my project. That's what I need to do. I need to walk all over this park, hike all over this park, photograph all over this park, and create a slideshow for next year. So here we are with the slideshow of Hot Springs National Park. So you're going to see where I went during the last year or so. So let's start with a little bit of trivia and history about the park. Did you know? I'll let you read this. Yes, it predates Yellowstone. What's unique about this park compared to other national parks, and I have been to a lot of national parks. Usually when you think of national parks, you think of nature, trees and mountains and water and waterfalls and so on, and streams and creeks. nature. What makes this park unique is that, yes, there are mountains here, soft mountains. There are trails and hiking trails and beautiful geology. But what makes this park different is that it is part of the city, and the city is part of it. And you'll see in a minute what I mean by this. For example, Buckstaff Bathhouse. There used to be 12 bathhouses here in the city. And a bathhouse here, if you haven't done research on it, there were for the elite back then, where the elite would go to these beautiful, decorated, beautiful architecture buildings, and they would treat themselves to the hot, natural thermal baths, this hot water that comes from the ground. And they would take these therapeutic baths in the bathhouses. There were 12 of them back in 1912, or in the 20s. And this is the one, Buckstaff is the only one that's actually still operating as it used to be back then. So I've got some pictures to show you, photographs to show you of Buckstaff Bathhouse and the other 8 that are still remaining. I would love to take advantage of the bathhouses and pay $1 for 3 baths. So that would be great. I think currently, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, but I believe the fee for at the Buckstaff is like between $25 and $30 or so. I have some photographs that you'll see in a few seconds of the Army Navy Hospital. It's a beautiful building. You'll see in a minute. And it's not actually part of the national park, but because it's so close to it, the proximity makes everybody think that it is. It's right up against the park, but it's part of the city's history. We're talking millions of years here. Okay, are you ready for some photographs? Let's go. Let's start with Bathhouse Row. The part of the park that's downtown, the most famous part of it that's downtown is called Bathhouse Row. And I'm going to show you the beautiful buildings that make up what's called Bathhouse Row. This is what the scene looks like today along Bathhouse Row, with the Buckstaff baths in the background, the one that's currently still operating as it used to back in the 1920s. What I'm curious about is, I wonder what this same scene would have looked like back in the 1920s. It might have looked something like this. And this is the Buckstaff. Now let me take you inside. I'm going to take you inside here so you can see what it looks like when people are taking advantage of the thermal therapeutic treatments that they offer. So let's go inside. This is the men's bath hall. This is what it looks like inside. Beautiful structure. And this is the women's bath hall. See those tubs there, those deep tubs? That's what you're going to get into. You get in these tubs, and yes, you're going to be in your birthday suit, but there's a lot of privacy. You can see there's a wall between those tubs, and then they close the curtains for more privacy. So you can't not be too modest if you want to take advantage of this. But trust me, it is well worth it. You soak in these deep tubs, and you're in the natural hot water from the earth. soaking in these tubs for several minutes. Very enjoyable, very relaxing. And this is the women's hot pack room. So this is where the women would rest, and they still do, just relax just before they get their massage treatment. And check this out. We all take showers, but what would it be like if we took a shower where the water comes from above us and from all angles? It's called a needle shower. And trust me, it feels great. Called the needle shower. This is the Maurice bathhouse. The Maurice is the only bathhouse that's not currently being used. It is vacant. The other 11 are occupied. And this is the Lamar, currently being used as a gift shop, souvenir shop. You can just go inside and just buy whatever grabs you at the Lamar. And in the background there, you see that building in the background? That's the old Army-Navy hospital, what used to be the Army-Navy hospital. And this is the Ozark, the Ozark. And the Ozark is currently being used as an art gallery and for artist in residence program and other purposes related to art. It's just really nice and fun to go in here and check out the current art of the day and of the month. The Superior bathhouse. Currently, this is a combination of restaurant and bar. And my favorite there is hummus. They make some great hummus. I love this place. They make their own brew. They have a brewery inside, and they brew their own beer at the Superior Bathhouse. And this is the Quapaw, beautiful building. Check that out. In the background again is that famous Army-Navy hospital. I'm going to take you inside so you can see what it looks like inside. The next picture you will see is a creative photograph that I converted to something that looks more like a painting than a photograph. But you will still be able to see what it looks like and what people can do inside as they just enjoy the hot, natural thermal waters. It looks relaxing, doesn't it? Very relaxing. And the Quapaw also looks beautiful in the middle of winter. White on white. And this is the Hale, one of the existing 8 that remain downtown. The Hale is a combination of bar, restaurant, and hotel. The hotel is upstairs in the second floor. Let me take you inside so you can see what they did inside with this old structure and converted part of the inside to a beautiful restaurant called the Eden. They did a great job with it, didn't they? They even opened up the ceiling and everything, the roof. Ah, yes, the Fordyce. I was there earlier today because they were celebrating its 100th anniversary. So they're having all kinds of events there today at midday, mid-afternoon. This is the Fordyce. Currently, it's being used as the headquarters for the park. So you can go in there and there will always be a ranger there, a National Park Ranger, sharing maps with you, information, details, where to go, what to see, etc. And it's also a museum. The first, second, and third floors are a museum. So I urge you all, if you live in Hot Springs, if you haven't seen this, please go in there and check it out. If you don't live in Hot Springs, but you're planning a visit to Hot Springs, you've got to put this on your to-do list. This is a must-see place, the Fordyce. Actually, all of the bathhouses here. I'm going to take you inside so you can see part of the building and what it looks like inside. You're going to be amazed at this. What luxury, huh? And again, this was back then for the elite. They would come here, entertain, listen to music, perhaps dance, but definitely listen to music. Look at that, the art in this building. The stained glass windows up above. Here it is again, the needle shower, a different form, a variation of it. But again, you could get water coming at you from all angles. Over to the right, that small little structure you see there, that looks like a tub. Those are called sitz baths. S-I-T-Z, as in zebra, sitz bath. And now imagine yourself in your birthday suit, sitting deep in there in hot natural water, just soaking it all in. The story goes, these were great for hemorrhoids. I don't know if that's true. I haven't tried that, but that's what they say. In either case, it feels great just sitting in the hot water. The famous boxer, Jack Dempsey, used to train here. There's a gymnasium on the 3rd floor of the Fordyce. And this is the gym where he used to train. And on the 1st floor, this is the men's hall, bath hall. And you can see the ranger, the guide, talking to the visitors here. And she's looking up and everybody else is looking up. You might be wondering, what are they looking at? Let me show you what they're looking at. Beautiful stained glass window right above men's bath hall. Look at the detail on that. Absolutely amazing. Again, feel free to interject and ask any questions if you like. This is Bathhouse Row from above, looking at it from the historic Arlington Hotel. At the south end of Bathhouse Row are these beautiful fountains with just, you can see what it looks like in the wintertime with the steam coming out in the winter. It's so relaxing. Now I think we're going to move toward the middle of Bathhouse Row. Again, beautiful architecture, beautiful designs. I'm going to take you a little bit closer to that formation, that structure right in the middle there. Beautiful design, isn't it? Captain Robert R. Stevens. Now, if you go up above this and look the opposite direction, as if looking toward me, this is what this looks like. Just the opposite direction. Now, right behind Bathhouse Row is one of my favorite parts of the city and parts of the park. To me, it looks very European. It's the Grand Promenade, or as we call it locally, the Promenade. But at the beginning of the promenade, or this beautiful structure, this beautiful art, what you're looking at is part of a fountain, a water fountain, where you can actually drink potable hot water, natural spring water. And you can see in the background, there's some steps in the background, those reddish steps. You take these steps on your way to the Grand Promenade. So now let me take you to the Grand Promenade. This is it. Beautiful, isn't it? People hike here, they walk here, they stroll here. They check their emails here, they walk their dogs here. It's about a half a mile long. So if you walk it both ways, obviously you've walked a mile, which is pretty good. Now let me take you on the scenery along the Grand Promenade to show you the kind of things you can see as you walk along the promenade. This is another view of the beautiful Quapaw bathhouse. as seen from the promenade. And as I said, people walk, they hike, they walk their dog, like this gentleman walking his giant Dane there early in the morning. This was probably around 8 o'clock in the morning, and he was just walking his dog and enjoying it. But as you can tell, a great relaxing way to get some exercise and just meditate and just enjoy the surroundings. There's trees here everywhere. At the other end of Bathhouse Row are these beautiful springs. You can see the steam coming out of them. You're looking at the north end of Bathhouse Row, and these beautiful natural structures. Now, these two springs also look beautiful right in the middle of winter. Beautiful. Now, the sign says, slippery, do not climb. I am not going to do it. It does look slippery from here. Beautiful, isn't it? And these are some of the several gurgling water that you see, these springs just coming out of the water. And it's hot. You can put your finger and your hand in there, but not for very long. But you can see that they're hot, but they're beautiful, turquoise color. Here's another one of those natural springs. You can see the water over to almost at the center, coming out from the earth. And yes, you can walk around the promenade and the nearby area and sit. I'm not sure how much weight that little bench can support. I would probably sit on the other one, in the other one. As you can see, people are hiking up above. That's East Mountain or Hot Springs Mountain that you see them walking. You see those structures there, those green structures? Those are springs, but they're capped. They're capped springs. And I was told by the superintendent of the national park that they capped several of these springs to prevent contamination from entering the water system. At the same time, it's those same springs that feed some of the bathhouses, like the Buckstaff. That's where they get their water from these underground capped springs. Now I'm going to take you to Hot Springs Mountain, also known as East Mountain and North Mountain. They have different names, but to the naked eye, they seem like the same mountain, but they do have different names. But because they are technically, for all intents and purposes, the same mountain, I'm going to show you the trails, the hiking trails, and everything that's around here in Hot Springs Mountain and North Mountain. This is a view of Hot Springs Mountain as seen from the top of historic Arlington Hotel. And yes, they're correct when they say these are soft mountains. One of the structures that you see in Hot Springs Mountain is this beautiful gazebo. And people go here to chat, to talk, to party. I've seen people partying here, and I've seen people go here just to check their emails or whatever, and to get a beautiful view of the city from up here. It's a overlook. And nearby, just across the street from here, is the tower, the observation tower, 216 feet. I think you can get a 360-degree view of the whole city and the national park from up there. This is another view of the same tower as seen from West Mountain. I'm going to take you to West Mountain in just a few minutes. But right now, I'm going to stick to North Mountain and Hot Springs Mountain. when you're on top of the tower, the 216-foot tower, this is what it looks like. You're looking at, in the foreground, Hot Springs Mountain, and then you see part of downtown Hot Springs. And then right across from Hot Springs downtown is West Mountain, view at sunset. Some of the trails in the mountains. Beautiful, very relaxing. And unlike Colorado, I lived in Colorado for 13 and a half years. So unlike the hiking trails there in Colorado, these trails, for the average person, I have to qualify this, for the average person, they're easy to moderate, depending on what physical shape you're in. Another view in the fall. Again, trails everywhere. The autumns here in Arkansas and here in Hot Springs, beautiful. We get yellows, reds, oranges, beautiful colors. And as you can see, people take advantage, excuse me, people take advantage of the hiking trails here, like this young man walking with his dog. Trees, trees everywhere, just canopies of trees, very relaxing. And flora, everywhere you walk, you find beautiful flowers here and there. And this is along Goat Rock Trail. When I saw this tree, I could not believe what it had done. I mean, it just redefined itself. It reinvented itself. I'm not sure what happened to it, but obviously, whatever happened to it, it revived, it reinvented itself. And I can get a little philosophical here when I see something like this, but maybe we should learn from nature that whatever goes wrong, whatever happens, we need to reinvent ourselves and just keep on growing, keep on going, and just keep moving forward. And this is what it looks like in the spring. Beautiful colors. You can see more of the mountains in the background there. This is along Goat Rock Trail on North Mountain. And this is one of the views from North Mountain. And this is some of the geology you see when you're walking along these trails. Beautiful geology. I'm not a geologist, but I can really appreciate geology everywhere, anywhere. More flora. And this is Goat Rock. This is on Goat Rock Trail, and that is Goat Rock. Now, if you look carefully toward the top, there's a railing. You can barely see it. There's a railing, and you can actually climb or actually hike up to this big rock, Goat Rock, and get a beautiful view from up there. And this is what you see from up there. Beautiful view. You're looking at North Mountain in the foreground and Indian Mountain in the background. If you look to the left, you can see a little sliver of the hiking trail over to the left by that tree. This is another view of the valley, also from Goat Rock Trail. And this park looks beautiful in the winter also as well, as you can see. Now, let me take you to Golfa Gorge Campground. It's at the bottom of North Mountain and Hot Springs Mountain. It is part of the park. So when you see these following pictures, these next photographs, imagine yourself taking your RV and parking it here for about a week and enjoying this kind of scenery. Beautiful. I love bridges. Love that old bridge. Here's another view of the campground. Obviously, you can't see the trailers and the RVs from here, but they're over to your right of this section here. There's that old bridge in the background. And if you go over those stones that you see there to the left, you can start hiking toward the top of North Mountain. Another view of the campgrounds. Now let me take you to West Mountain. Nice view of one of the trails at sunset. And as I said, people take advantage of the trails here, just like any other park. Hiking, running, photographing, like me. As you can see, this gentleman hiking, or actually he was not hiking, he was jogging among these beautiful green trees. The trees here are so green that I call them Photoshop green, because they're so surrealistic in their vibrant colors. This is another view of West Mountain, going forward much toward the west side of the mountain. Here you're reaching the summit of the mountain, and it's also one of the narrowest parts of the mountain. As you can see, it's very narrow at this juncture here. Again, some of the trails, beautiful trails. And you're among these trees. These trees are tall, these canopies. You feel like an ant when you're hiking around here, walking around here. See all these tall trees. And I believe they're called short leaf pines, if I'm not mistaken. If somebody else out there knows the correct name, you can interrupt me and tell me. But I believe they're called short leaf pines. And West Mountain in springtime. And oh, I love hiking anywhere in the park in the middle of a thick fog. When I see a thick fog developing, I get in my car and go up there and start walking. Beautiful. Very peaceful hiking in these the woods, the mountains, in these thick fogs. And the roads look beautiful also in the fall or in the wintertime. This is another view from West Mountain looking at the tower. You can see a condominium over down to your right, and it gives you an idea as to how integrated the park is with the city and the city with the park. Another view of a portion of downtown from West Mountain. And right in the middle is the convention center. It's the largest convention center in the state. Now let me take you to Secret Cave. I can't do a show of hands like I can in my classes. So I don't know how many of you have been to Secret Cave or heard of Secret Cave. Based on my informal surveys, a lot of people do not know about Secret Cave in the park. The beginning of the cave, or the trail to the head, the trailhead, starts at a city park, not a national park, but the city park called DeSoto Park. So if you go to DeSoto Park, the trailhead begins there. It's very generic, it's unmarked, so you have to look for it. But once you look for it, you climb very steep. It's a very steep hike, not very far, but very steep, so you have to be careful. But check this out. When you get to the cave, this is what you see. Where's the cave? That's what I thought when I went there, and I thought, where's the cave? If you look at that boulder in the lower center part of this photograph, you have to climb over that boulder to get to the cave. There's that same boulder at the center, bottom center. You have to climb over that boulder to see and go into the cave. So now I climbed over that boulder and walked a few feet, and I saw this. And I see that dark spot over on the left? Yes, that is the entrance to Secret Cave. And you cannot stand up. You can't stand up when you go in there. You have to crouch and just kind of sit your butt there, that little shelf, and then scoot your way in and then stand up. But once you're inside the cave, I'm estimating it's probably 2 stories at least once you're inside the cave. And this is what it looks like once you're inside the cave. So now you're in the cave looking outward. And you're also still inside the cave looking outward. And you can see some of those natural openings in the formations. And this is a good look at the geology that you see there. This is the entire cave. It doesn't look big because I shot this with an extreme wide angle lens. So when you photograph something this big with a wide angle lens, it doesn't look that big because I covered the whole thing, almost the whole thing. So there's the ceiling above. But look at the geology here. Just beautiful. Look at that. This is a closer view of that geology. It's like I call it nature's art. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Now this next shot, you're looking straight up at the cave, straight up toward the ceiling of this cave. See those dark spots up above? Those are bats. Bats. Now, believe it or not, I did not see them when I was there. Now, you might be laughing or smiling, going, what? You didn't see that? But the reason is because it's dark in there. It's not like this. I just used very specific, special, creative techniques so that you could see the inside. And no, this is not HDR, but this is just a special technique in order to bring some light into this dark cave. But those are bats up there. And the dark black areas over to the right, I am guessing that's bat guano. Yes, bat guano or bat droppings. Because when I went to Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, that's the way the droppings looked. So now I hope I have encouraged you to someday check out Secret Cave. Let's go to Sugarloaf Mountain. Mm-hmm. Trees everywhere. You can really see and get the good perspective on the height of these trees when you compare it to humans. It's going for a hike. A view of this trail. Again, you can begin to see boulders. When you get to the top, it's about a mile hike or so to this point, roughly. But again, you look out, you see these other mountains. And if you keep walking along this trail, you start beginning to see all these big, huge boulders. And if you walk to the right, maybe a couple of yards, 2 or 3 yards, you see this. This is called balanced rock. Let's get in a little closer. Let me take you in a little closer, and let's get a closer view of this balanced rock. There it is. I haven't decided whether it looks like a bird with a dog's head or a dog with a bird's body. I haven't decided, but in either case, it's a beautiful formation and geology, balanced rock. Now let me take you to Whittington Park, right in the middle of town. Beautiful park. This park is about, I'm estimating maybe a couple of blocks wide, maybe 3 blocks wide, and about a mile long. It's beautiful, beautiful park. Check this out. And that's Whittington Creek flowing right in the middle of the park with this beautiful rock formations and retaining walls. Another view of Whittington Creek and the retaining walls and the walkways and bridges in the park. Beautiful old bridges. I've seen people jogging here, running here, walking their dogs. I've seen people just sitting down and reading and relaxing, checking emails and such. As you can see, it's in the middle of the city. It cuts through the middle of the city. Beautiful. I think if Monet lived here in Hot Springs, Arkansas, he would paint this scene right here. The benches along the way. You can see the bridge in the background and the creek in the background. And it's beautiful in the wintertime as well. Summer, fall, spring, winter, it's all good. Beautiful. Now I'm going to take you to Stone Bridge and Lake Lillian, also known as Rick's Pond. And a lot of people don't know about Stone Bridge. I had a workshop here about a little over a year ago, with all my students were students here in Hot Springs. And all but one person did not know about Stone Bridge. Again, what can I say? I don't have to say anything. You can see for yourself. A reflection of these beautiful trees in the fall. This particular photograph, there wasn't much color, so I converted it to a black and white. It almost looks like in the middle of winter. And it looks nice in the fog also. Last year, I held a workshop, another workshop, different workshop. I just had a couple of students for this one. And we were hiking around the Stonebridge area around Rick's Pond. And we came across these beautiful orange mushrooms. They were pretty cool. I couldn't believe it. It's like, wow, nature's art again. And at the edge, at the end of the pond, or Lake Lillian, is this earthen dam that creates these beautiful, beautiful waterfalls, as you can see. And this takes us back to where we started. I do hope you enjoyed the presentation. And feel free to go visit me at my website. Feel free to email me with any questions. And now is a good time. I think Paul is still with us. Now is a good time to entertain any questions there you might have.
Yes,
Paul, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vega. You did get some comments and questions. I'll read off to you. I did get some through email. Excuse me, Patricia from Hot Springs Village emailed me. She wanted to thank you for your time and wanted to know what your favorite time of year and favorite time of day to photograph Hot Springs is.
Favorite time of year, fall, autumn. I love color. And the colors around here, when we do get a beautiful fall, it's hard to describe. Absolutely beautiful. some of the best fall colors I've seen in any part of the country. And I've traveled a lot throughout the U.S. Favorite time of day, I love shooting early in the morning when it's nice and quiet. The colors look different than they do between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. So I hope that answers your question.
You had a nice comment from Scott. Your photos are great, Eli. I've been enjoying our national park my whole life. Working at Hot Springs National Park in the summer has got me interested in traveling to many national parks throughout the country.
Great. Thank you, Scott. There are 63 national parks. Yeah, this is one of them. Thank you.
A follow-up question on that note from me. Are there any other national parks you've photographed or that you would like to that you haven't yet?
Well, let's start with the ones I have photographed. I have photographed, excuse me, there are 4 national parks in Colorado, and I photographed all 4 of them. The biggest one and most famous being Rocky Mountain National Park. And then there's also Mesa Verde National Park. And there's the Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. And there's also the Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado. I photographed them all. And I've also photographed Garden of the Gods. That's not a national park, but it should be. It's beautiful in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Also photographed Arches National Park in Utah and Canyonlands National Park, also in Utah. And I might have forgotten 1 or 2 others. The ones I want to photograph that are on my to-do list are all of the national parks in California. Where Half Dome is, Yosemite. I forgot, I photographed Yellowstone, also National Park. But yeah, Yosemite is still on my to-do list. This year, I hope to go to the Smoky Mountains this year in the fall to take my shot and get my interpretations and my renditions of that park.
Thank you. Another email question. This one's from Mary. She wants to know what type of equipment you use.
Okay. What was her name?
Mary.
Mary. Okay, Mary. I'll tell Mary. Let me tell you and all the others who are listening what I tell my students, and that is, it's not about the camera or the lens. It's about the photographer. So we need to really learn everything we possibly can, both the technical side of photography and the creative aesthetics part of photography. The rest of it is up to us. But to answer your direct question, I am currently shooting with a Nikon D500 camera, a great camera. In fact, I think most of the shots that you saw today, or at least half of them, no, probably 2/3 of them were shot with a D500. The others with a D300. And for the last 20 to 30 years, I have shot with nothing but Tamron lenses. I love Tamron lenses. Just as good as Nikon or Canon or all of the others for about 1/2 the price or 2/3 of the price.
What would you say the most challenging part of being a photographer is?
Wow. The most challenging part. Oh gosh, I think it's not about the equipment, but it's about staying not active, but staying motivated, staying alert, and just never wanting to give up. A good example is this year when it snowed. It's not common for it to snow as much as it did here a couple of weeks ago, like 15 to 20 inches in some areas, lots of snow. And everybody was hunkered down. Everybody was like, I'm not going out there in this snow. And a lot of people could not get out. But I got out. I put on what I call my Rocky Mountain gear. And I went out when it was in the middle of the snow, when it was snowing. And I got some of my best shots. because it was snowing. So the greatest challenge is for me to just always tell myself, I've got to get out there. I got to get out there. I got to get out there, even if I don't feel like it. Even if I'm in the mood, not in the mood, I know that once I'm out there, I'm going to get in the mood. So yeah, that's the greatest challenge for me. For others, it might be just learning how to operate the camera, just learning the difference between f-stops and shutter speed. But of course, I'm beyond that. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying after 20 or 30 years, yeah, I'm beyond that point. So now it becomes harder for me to be the best photographer I can possibly be, the best artist that I can possibly be.
Thank you. From the Facebook comments, we have, this is Joe in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, along with my friend Angie, watching on her computer. Did I hear once that some of the gangsters from Chicago used the hot baths? They knew that.
Yeah, I know Joe from Highlands Ranch and Angie. Thank you guys for asking that question. And if I heard the question correctly, is it true that some of the gangsters used to use hot baths? Was that the question, Paul?
Yes, that was
Yeah.
the question.
The answer is yes. I can't speak for myself because I wasn't here in 1920s or 1930s, but I have read the history books, and there is a gangster museum here. So yes, a lot of the gangsters from New York and Chicago used to come visit Hot Springs just to get away from all the stuff that they were doing. It was a vacation spot, and as I understand it, they had a sort of a gentleman's agreements, if you will, among the gangs, not to do anything wild and crazy while they were here. They put that all behind them and just enjoyed Hot Springs National Park and the baths. And I believe that it was Al Capone that used to come to Hot Springs National Park, and he used to stay at the Arlington Hotel and reserve. I believe it was the second or fourth floor. I forget. They used to reserve the whole entire floor just to make sure that there wasn't anybody else on the floor that they might have to be concerned about. It was just Al Capone and his entourage. There is a beautiful nightclub here called the Ohio Club. Beautiful club. I love going there. Story goes that Al Capone used to visit there, the Ohio Club. And even today, there's a little, I don't know what you call it, just a little sculpture, a figure of Al Capone outside. People can take pictures with this, I guess, plastic Al Capone or ceramic Al Capone. I'm not sure what it's made of, but people take pictures with Al Capone outside the Ohio Club. It's true.
A couple nice comments. Evangelina says, great photos and introduction to a marvelous park.
Thank you, Angelina. Appreciate it.
And Clarissa says, I walk in the park several times a week. Love it. Great pictures.
Great. So you know what I'm talking about. Very relaxing. Thank you.
Angie had a question about the secret cave. Is the cave very light in there during the day?
Very what?
Light. Bright. Is the lighting
No,
bright?
no, inside, no. No, not inside. I went there, I want to say it was probably mid-morning, maybe 10 o'clock-ish or so, when it was bright outside. But no, once you get inside the cave, it's dark. It's dark. I saw a YouTube video of a family from, I think they were from Texas, visiting hot springs, and they Googled, if you will, hot springs, and through that they discovered secret cave. So husband and wife and their two boys, they went to secret cave, and they posted that on YouTube. And you'll see from their YouTube video, you can't see the inside of the cave because you just can't. It's dark in there. So you need special equipment to get some light in there. You could, of course, take a flashlight with you. I had a flashlight, but I didn't need it because there's enough light that you can see the flooring of where you're stepping. But when you look up, it looks pretty dark.
Got a nice compliment from Scott. Says you should hang your photographs in an exhibition.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. That's on my to-do list. Thank you.
Scott must want a free photography lesson or something.
He must. I'll tell you what, Scott. I'll give you a free 1-hour Zoom lesson. How's that for that comment? Just email me, and we'll hook up, so to speak, through Zoom, and I'll be glad to give you a 1-hour lesson.
You're welcome, Scott. Clarissa wanted to talk about deer and other wildlife. She mentioned she sees a lot of deer when she's walking. Have you photographed a lot of deer and other wildlife in the national park?
You know, I have seen deer because I live at the foothills of the national park. So I have seen deer just walking down the street, literally, where I live, because I live at the foothills. But I only have one photograph of deer. I didn't show it today. It's a cute photograph of a mama and her two kids, two little children, beautiful. But technically they were not in the park when I photographed them, so that's why I didn't show them. But yeah, I have seen wildlife, deer mostly around here.
Denise thanks you and says, I'm from Hot Springs and didn't know about the secret cave or Lake Lillian and the Stone Bridge.
All right. Check it out. Check it out. And if you're not sure where they are, email me. I'll give you directions.
So question from me, if you could go back in time and select an era where you could take photographs in Hot Springs National Park downtown and then bring them back to present day, what would you choose?
The 1920s. That's when things were really happening here in terms of the national park, Bathhouse Row, the history behind that. I wish, and if I did live in that era, I would hope that I had been financially stable enough to afford to go to some of these bathhouses, because as I said, most of these, if not all of them, were for the elite to take advantage of, especially the Fordyce and the Marie, I understand, were the most expensive. So if I had lived there, I hope that I would have had enough money to take advantage of that and to photograph that. I wish I could photograph that in the 1920s with today's photographic equipment and then show it.
During your time working on this project, the showcase for the Centennial, were there any major themes that stood out to you about the history of Hot Springs National Park over the last 100 years?
Yeah, well, good question. Good question. First, the fact that it was the first to be designated as such a park that was really part of the city, very unusual, very unique. To say, are we in the city? Yeah, well, yeah, but you're also in the park at the same time. Bathhouse Row, as you're looking at right now, Bathhouse Row, you're in the city and you're in the park at the same time. So that strikes me still today as very unique. And the trails here, just hiking around here, because I've hiked in Utah and Colorado and some in Texas. And I always say that every state has its own beauty. I've traveled through Kansas, and yes, Kansas is not like Colorado. It doesn't have Rocky Mountains. It doesn't have the mountains that Arkansas has, but it has its own beauty. So the beauty I found here in this park were the trees. Again, gosh, I call them Photoshop green. The leaves in the summer are awesome. And just a canopy of trees that surround you when you're hiking. And the feeling, you get a different feel. I get a different feeling altogether when I'm hiking the Rockies as opposed to when I'm hiking here in Hot Springs National Park. I hope that answered your question. You did remind me, though, Paul, that I don't want to say it's human nature, but short of that, I want to say it's common for a lot of people to live in one place, especially if you live in a certain place too long. You tend to eventually take it for granted. And as a photographer, I always look at things from with fresh eyes. You know, if I've been there too long, I ask myself, what have I not photographed? Or what have I photographed, but maybe haven't photographed it this way or that way? So I urge everybody, if you can, to just break away from that idea of taking things for granted. In this case, taking Hot Springs and Hot Springs National Park for granted. It's beautiful here. It's nice here. A lot of history, a lot of geology. So don't take it for granted. Especially right now, it's not cold, it's not hot. Perfect weather for walking and hiking. And as I said, most of these trails are not that difficult to hike. Go to Secret Cave, check it out. Go to these places that I mentioned today, Stone Bridge, check that out, especially in the fall. Wow, Stone Bridge is awesome. So yeah, don't take it for granted.
I appreciate that. And
Sure.
I appreciate that about your presentation. It was both educational for people who are existing residents. Like Denise said, you know, I didn't know about the secret cave myself either. And it was a good introduction for someone who may be traveling here in the future. So appreciate that.
Maybe I can teach Scott during the during the 1 hour lesson. I can teach Scott how to photograph Secret Cave. Anyway, yes. Thanks all for your comments and thoughts and questions. Were there any more, Paul?
Looks like that's all we had. I'll give you an opportunity to give any final thoughts and remind everyone where they can find you and your photography.
Great, thank you. If you're interested in receiving my monthly newsletters, I have a lot of tidbits. I have a tip of the month. I have a pick of the month. I have all kinds of stuff there, all kinds of things going on there, including where I'm teaching my classes and my workshop, what's coming up next, and so on. So if you're interested in receiving my monthly newsletters, please email me. You can see my email right there. Email me and just say, Eli, please add me to your newsletter. And you'll get the next one. My last one just went out last week. So if you email me tonight or tomorrow, I can forward to you my most recent newsletter, plus add you to my newsletter list. And I encourage all of you, those of you who are into photography, want to learn photography, to go out there and learn, just read and take classes and workshops and seminars, not just from me, but from other photographers, because we all see things differently. We all see life from different perspectives. We have different philosophies of life, different philosophies of photography. So take classes from me and from others. And eventually what you'll do is you take something from me and put that in your toolbox. You take something from somebody else and put that in your toolbox. And before you know it, you'll have your toolbox filled with all these tools to take out and use. And by the time, before you know it, you can have all these tools to use at your convenience. So yeah, don't give up on photography. My favorite comment, if you don't mind me saying this, Paul, at this point, my favorite compliment that I have ever received in my 20 plus years of teaching photography was from a woman in Rocky Mountain National Park. It was a 3-day in the field workshop. And she hung around at the end of the workshop. She hung around until everybody left. And she came up to me and said, Eli, you know what I really liked about your workshop? I said, what's that? She said, you didn't make me feel stupid. And that was the greatest compliment I have ever received from anybody. And that's my goal. You know, if you don't know something, it's because you haven't learned it yet. everything I learned at one time, I did not know it. I learned it. I studied it. I don't know if that matches with what you were asking, Paul, but that's the best I could do with that question.
I think it does, absolutely. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Vega. One quick little library program I'd like to promote here. This is next Saturday, the 13th, and this is also of local interest, so it might be of interest to some of the audience. We're having a virtual book club. The book is All the Young Men by Ruth Coker Burks, who is from Hot Springs, and you can get this book for free if you have a library card on Hoopla. There's probably only a few spots left for this book club, so please go to our website, gclibrary.com, and you can register for that while you still can. All right.
Yeah, and Paul, if I can put in a quick plug for my book, Right Brain Photography. It is available on Amazon and Books A Million and Barnes & Noble online. Thank you, Paul, and thank you everybody else who joined us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a good night.
Good night.